pull yourself apart. It was the first time in my entire life I have completely wept out of sheer joy. It was the most, I've always thought my wife was beautiful. I still do to this day. But it was the most beautiful I'd ever seen her, ever. And she took that walk, and every person that turned and looked at her cried. And there wasn't a single dry eye in that entire audience, not woman, not child, not man. I mean, it was an atmosphere that it would never be recreated. And it was the most beautiful thing. And when the door shut behind her, nothing had happened before. Not the car accident, not your parents not being there. None of that mattered. Only thing that mattered was, I'm here for her, she's here for me. And we're gonna do this thing. And we've been doing that thing for 15?
15.
About to be 16 years. Let's talk about babies. And part of the reason we're here, right?
Right.
Well, let's talk about the first one before we get to the new one.
Yeah.
Again, a moment that people love and cherish and are super excited about turned into a fight for my wife's life. So, we went through marriage counseling at 21, right before we got married. Well, yeah, 21, right before we got married. And the bishop, Ernest T. Menez, who married us, his advice to us was, do not have kids in your first year of marriage. And I trusted him wholeheartedly. He was a man of God, or is a man of God. And everything he said to do marriage-wise, I followed to a T, and it's been very successful for us, including deciding not to have a kid in the first year of marriage. Now, we were in an apartment at the time in Homewood, and my broke wife, because you were broke,
I was.
she had demands before she would give me a child. Mind you, we've been in a relationship 9 years. We've been married 3 years before I got hit with baby fever. I come home, Jennifer, let's have a baby. Your response?
This apartment's not gonna work.
You gotta buy me a house. Once you buy me a house, then we can have a baby.
The house and car. Don't leave the car out.
Correct. So we go through, I do everything I can to make that happen. And luckily for me, I have good credit. And, I've been working on my job a couple of years by then. So it wasn't that hard to make either of those things happen. So buy the house, get the car. Okay, Jennifer, let's have a baby.
Right.
Your response?
You sure?
It was terrible. So this became a full-on argument after a while.
It did.
And we get up to October, which the baby was born in 2008, so the previous October. And we're riding to church. And I'm telling Jennifer, okay, now this is ridiculous. And she goes, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a baby. How you gonna have a baby on birth control? So she finally gets upset with me on the way home from church, rolls the window down. This is on my sister's birthday, October the 21st, I'll never forget it. And she tosses the pills out the window. And so began our baby journey.
Yeah.
And it took my wife took us only 3 months to get pregnant. And total disaster. Absolute disaster. She passed out at home early on in the pregnancy. We rushed her to the hospital. First, there was the baby was not where it should have been, so they suspected that she had an ectopic pregnancy. So we have an overnight stay there. They send us back home. Well, maybe it's too early. We come back the next week. Oh, your baby's here, but it doesn't have a heartbeat. So we're hurt. We don't know to celebrate or be devastated. We have no idea. And they send us home again. So we come back the following week. Oh, we have a heartbeat. Let's celebrate. Let's have this baby. So we announce it. We get all excited. We're ready to roll. And then she starts throwing up. Okay, all women throw up. That was in my mind.
Yeah.
Those were my thoughts.
This normal. It's just normal.
Yes.
You're just pregnant.
You're just pregnant. All pregnant women throw up.
Yeah, and I said, well, I don't know anything about this, but I don't think this is normal.
And she began throwing up once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day. Then it became the smell of food, her own saliva,
Anything
the
happen?
thought of food would
Yeah.
make her vomit.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. She ends up in the hospital, and she spends basically the entire first trimester in the hospital. They had to tube her to stop the saliva from being produced because it was making her vomit. She was diagnosed basically with hyperemesis, and she had the severest case that
I want to see.
that particular hospital had ever seen. So she got progressively worse. She was skin and bones. You could see her shoulder, the bones in her shoulder. It was horrible watching her go through this. And I didn't know. I couldn't believe this was happening to us. This was something that should have been so great, and it was just a complete train wreck. We ended up having to change hospitals. They over-medicated her. And then when they over-medicated her, she became psychotic. And then they decided to call in a psychiatrist to say, okay, she's crazy now. So I'm 24 years old, and I'm having to make decisions over my wife's life because she's no longer able to make those decisions for herself. Sit there with that doctor. I said, she wasn't crazy when she walked in here, and she's not going to be crazy when she leaves. I had them pull her off of as many of the medications as humanly possible. And the only thing she was left with, again, was the tube that was taking the saliva off of her. The doctor comes in that particular weekend. She had a PICC line inserted in her that had come out, and they wanted to put her in her neck, and she was just too afraid to do that. The doctor looks me in the face and says, if you don't abort this kid, neither of them are going to survive the weekend. Imagine that. Your first child with the love of your life, and they both hang on by a thread. My wife had just enough energy to say,
I'm going to have this child if it kills me. And I did just that. Skip it.
she kept it.
Yep.
And at that moment, had she wanted to give up, I would have been completely okay with it because she was dying. You don't know it unless you go through it.
Yeah.
You just don't know it unless you go through it. And things began to turn around. We got her out of that particular hospital, which I won't name. She ended up at UAB. UAB put her on a feeding tube because, again, the only nourishment she was getting was, well, all the little nourishment she was getting was basically going to the baby, and the baby was basically just acting as a parasite and just taking the life out of her. Put her on a feeding tube, and she was well enough to come home, but she had to come home on a feeding tube, the sound of which I will absolutely never forget. I took a leave of absence from work, and I sat there with my wife, and every 4 hours, 24 hours a day for weeks, put that food in, put that water in, hit the button on that machine to keep them alive. Now, we were super happy at the beginning of this pregnancy, and I was super young, so I was like, hey, girl or boy, the kid's being named after me. So my name is Marquise. The kid was going to be Marquise Jawan Bonner II.
It's a
Boy.
yeah.
Girl was gonna be Marquita. When she got on her deathbed, God spoke to me. And I said, Lord, if you let her survive this weekend, if you let us get through this pregnancy, I will honor you every day by calling this baby a name that will always be in reference to you. Mm-hmm. If it's a boy, he will be Will.I.Am, William. William. And if it's a girl, her name will be Faith. Mm-hmm. Faith Renee. Renee means born again. And he answered that prayer. And he gave us the absolute love of our life. Faith Renee Bonner.
Yeah.
And here she is.
Hi.
In all the beauty. I mean, God has blessed this kid with the best of everything. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I guess I have no choice.
That is also true. That's why you're here.
Yeah. Well, my name's Faith. I'm 12 years old, and I currently attend Jefferson County International Baccalaureate Middle School.
Because she's super smart.
Daddy.
Well, it's true. You have high IQ. She's been a gifted child since kindergarten.
Don't forget my straight A's.
Straight A's, correct. Straight A's her entire life.
And I'm the soon-to-be sister of Bishop.
Which we'll get to in a minute.
I've been dancing for 9 years of my life, so since I was 3.
3 years old. Amazing dancer. Just gifted. Absolutely gifted dancer.
I've always been an active child. I don't know. I was either running down the stairs or screaming, running in the middle of parking lots.
And running.
Yeah.
Until my parents decided, okay, we need to put this child in something that allows her to move and not injure herself. So they put me in dance, and I've been enjoying it ever since.
Correct. Just an amazing kid. She never cried when she was an infant. No. People didn't even know we had a kid in the house unless we said something. And I thank God for it, because after going through what we went through to get her here, with the amount of medications that went through my wife's body, it's amazing that she got here at all, let alone healthy and thriving. So if anything, it's a testament to the goodness of God. And she has been an absolute blessing to us. Just beautiful inside and out. She has a heart for people. She loves her parents. She loves her dog. I mean, she's giving. She's just everything that a father and a mother would want in a child. And I'm not saying that just because it's my kid. If you're around her more than 5 minutes, you can see it. There's an anointing about her. There's something special about her spirit. I call her my little world changer. What do you want to be when you grow up?
An eye doctor.
And she's well on her way. She's going to be Dr. Bonner unless somebody marries her and messes up. Hopefully, can we at least hyphenate? Bonner dash something.
You'll have another kid.
Well, that's true. We don't actually need that anymore. But, I mean, I'm just saying. It's going to be great.
You'll be okay. You will be okay.
So, this has been our life for 12 years. Just laughter and love, and it's been everything that I didn't have for a long period in my life. When I say God has the ability to restore and give you back tenfold what was taken from you, He has done it in my life, and He's definitely done it in my wife's life. And again, every time I call her name, which is the reason I won't give her a nickname, or I've never given her a nickname, it's a testimony. She's a living, breathing testimony to the goodness of our God. I love you so much.
Give me that.
Don't tickle me.